I'm sure a number of you will find this considerably funny. I mean, maybe some of you, if I weren't to give the prelude that this is in reality just a surprising coincidence, you would think it's a rather on-the-nose response. Maybe a fitting one, if you're familiar with Transformers movies and their overall audience reception in specific regard to their quality. I actually forgot that Transformers 7 was happening. And it wasn't until a couple days ago when the teaser trailer debuted that I was like, oh yeah, Transformers, it is a thing. I totally forgot about this movie. Although, to be honest, I guess I wasn't completely unaware of it. Time flies, though, these days, and of course there's a lot of cinema and other adventures within the entertainment world that I cover on this channel in particular, and things that I'm focused on, but there hasn't been a Transformers movie in a while. And the headline, in fact, that I'm thinking of, because again, I said, as I mentioned, I wasn't unaware of it, around the time that In the Heights was being marketed, there was that headline circulating about Anthony Ramos, or is it Ramos? I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly. Feel free to chime in down below if you know, and if you feel inclined to provide that for me. At the time that he was in that movie, and of course that garnered him a lot of praise, you started seeing headlines circulating about Transformers 7 and other films he was going to be a part of, being this one, I believe, as the main lead character, I think. And I'm sure for Anthony Ramos, he's delighted. I mean, from what I can see and my familiarity of him, he seems to be making his way into larger franchises. Think as well, for example, of the MCU and the Ironheart show. Who knows how that thing is going to fare, but I won't go on a tangent with Marvel, but we've all got our thoughts, I'm sure. But with Transformers 7, again, I totally spaced it out. So when it was announced a couple days ago, it was quite a shock to me, but I'm like, oh yeah. So we're back again to look at Transformers at this point. I mean, at this point, I think it's fair to say as well, like anybody could have guessed this film was going to be happening. We've had 6 entries in this franchise, and this thing is a cash cow for Paramount, which from what I've heard in terms of their franchises, whether they be developing or sustained, they could use the financial booster. I'm just curious to see which way this film goes. It's formerly named Rise of the Beasts, although you could say it's more so Transformers 7, or even more specific than that, Bumblebee 2. Which is where my curiosity peaks, because I look at the Transformers franchise with 5 entries now in terms of the Michael Bay line, the main present-day story, and these spin-off adventures set in the past. The films are similar in terms of the robot depiction. They're right down the same line. They're obviously adjacent to one another. There's those franchise connections, but yet Bumblebee felt so different. And I hadn't seen it, which is, again, why I said maybe I forgot about this movie happening as well from a disengagement perspective. I hadn't really paid attention since covering Bumblebee a while back, but I hadn't even seen the movie yet until a couple days ago. But watching it and keeping that in mind and comparing it with the Michael Bay films, I'm not sure which way this is going to go down. Maybe this film is more of a mix, but I'm genuinely curious to hear audience perspective on this one. When you think of Transformers and what you want, do you want cutesy Transformers with a more... I thought Bumblebee was good, by the way. I'm not trying to speak derogatory of it, but it had a bit like a cutesy family atmosphere versus Rock'em Sock'em robots for 3 hours. Or near that, if you think of Age of Extinction. I honestly don't know, because, I mean, those films have made so much money, and everybody kind of generally accepts them as popcorn films, but they're fine, action thrill rides. Nothing really more than that. But Bumblebee tried to be something different and a little more sophisticated, and I thought it did pretty well. Like I said, Haley Steinfeld, of course, doing much of the heavy lifting herself. I mean, she is a fabulous actress. And the Bumblebee character I found quite endearing. I'm just not sure which direction this is going to go down. Maybe a mix. We'll see. But either way, the Transformers are back. And maybe this film is trying to be a little more sophisticated. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a couple headlines lately about it. I'm not sure. Maybe this is trying to go down more the Bumblebee route, and Paramount's like, we can make Transformers better. Can you, though? Is that what the audience would want, or do you just want, like, standard summer popcorn fare in terms of the Rock'em Sock'em model? I don't know. Let's see. I mean, either way, like I said, Transformers is back to claim more of your money. And hey, the sequences themselves of the robots transforming, they're fun. I have another question as I watch this, but I'll save that for later. Again, it's keeping in mind franchise direction here. Well, the CGI is good as usual.
I'm not the one to fear, Prime. There is a darkness coming.
It was all a dream.
Standard fare for the Transformers films, but...
Pull over! I'm not driving! And if you don't know...
Didn't they kind of do that moment before in some of the earlier productions? Oh no, they did that in Bumblebee, didn't they? Well, that's kind of a cool display. Interesting ideas.
Spread love is the Brooklyn way. And if you don't know, now you know. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call the crib, same number, same hood. It's all good.
Of all the threats, from both your past and future,
It was all a dream.
you've never faced anything like this. Let them come.
Maybe it is going more again, like again being a hybrid model. I mean, at this point,
And if you don't know, now you know.
it could go either way. I'm sure this will suck most of us in, even if we're like, yeah, Transformers is not the best franchise in the world. I mean, do I think it's like Oscar-worthy? Obviously not. Maybe, maybe some of the visual effects. I mean, if this film is good enough. I mean, some of the transformations look great. I like the animal ones myself. And a couple of the ideas, like, for example, the holographic car display, that's an interesting idea. I don't think that's really been done before, at least from what I can remember. But the whole bit with, like, Anthony Ramos in the car, it kind of feels, again, like it's standard fare for Transformers on repetition. That's kind of unnecessary. Again, there's a freshness here, but then there's also a familiarity. I'm like, oh, you kind of done that before. I mean, again, I honestly don't know which direction I would take this down. Because again, the Rock'em Sock'em model has made so much money, and Bumblebee, had financial success from what I remember as well too. But it was such a different shift in tone from the other Transformers movies, much lower scale. But when I think about, like, again, the mainstream Michael Bay releases, I know they're not generally accepted, again, like I said, as anything more than summer popcorn flicks, and robot brawls. But we still have that hanging story that all these spin-off adventures, I mean, I don't know which way I would go down. I'm sure this will make a lot of money. Either way. I mean, they have to, for all the VFX budgets or all the money they're spending on this, obviously. I mean, again, it's a very well-stylized movie on a digital perspective. I mean, all the robot transformations look very organic, fresh. I love the animal ones. Those ones in particular really stand out to me. And this might be, again, a good mixture of tone. I mean, the war sequence at the end, that's in line with the Michael Bay stuff. That's not as connected to Bumblebee. I don't know. We're on the 7th entry at this point. I'm sure it'll make a lot of money. They always do. Even though, again, I question, which way would you take the franchise? Right? I mean, honestly, I'm at a point of indecision with it. Because I see strengths on both sides, but I don't know. There's a mixture perspective over not to reboot or not. I know it's kind of thrown around a bit as well. I don't know what I would do with Transformers. I mean, Paramount's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's making, like the last, or Age of Extinction, if it's making that much money, of course not. I mean, maybe, I don't know, Rise of the Beasts could make big bucks for them. I'm sure, like, I'm looking at this from a perspective that I've only seen the movies. I was never, I didn't grow up with Transformers in terms of my childhood. So they're not toys or lore that are the most familiar to me, and I've learned along with the films as the stories have articulated certain points of that world to me. So some of this it might not be making sense. I'm just looking at it from, again, a creative perspective. I mean, I love the CGI. That always attracts me in terms of the robot constructions and seeing them transform in and out of their robot models, their car models. It's kind of fun. But, that can only take you so far. And does Transformers really have that much life in it? I don't know. But yet these things keep making money. They keep making them. We'll see how this film does. I'm genuinely interested to see. I mean, it looks like a fun action thrill ride, at least towards the end. We'll see what happens with Transformers 7. I'm very curious to hear perhaps your perspective, right? Where do you find yourself with Transformers? And if you were to choose between a direction, right? If you could say, to Paramount, I want the films to go down the Bumblebee line or the Michael Bay line. Because in both respects, again, they're connected, but there are stark differences, in my opinion. Which path would you choose? For me, this comes across as a bit of a mix, so it might please both crowds. I mean, I personally lean more toward the Michael Bay side. We'll see how the film fares. I'm genuinely curious. But it's the 7th entry. Transformers is back again. For better or for worse. Time will tell on that front, but we'll see how much life is left in the tank of this thing. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.